Fair enough. A win's a win. A win's a win.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. I'm your host, Brady Wasco, along with, co-host. I should have said that better. Co-host Carter First. You can follow us on Twitter, Braden 5 Wasco, Carter First 2, as well on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. Drop a subscription if you're here on YouTube. Really helps us out. We notice a lot of you guys aren't subscribed, even though coming off of yesterday's video, we got a bunch of new subscribers. So that was awesome. That video did really well. I think it did shockingly well for how poor the game was. Carter, my man, I mean, we take this win. Don't get me wrong. It probably wasn't the best performance we've ever seen. Actually, I know for a fact it wasn't the best performance we've ever seen. This game could have been pretty much over if Kevin Biggio didn't get lucky on the attempted pickoff. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. What was your feelings on today?
Yeah, I mean, definitely not going to complain about a win, but this was just a Jose Berrios masterclass, and this was the most typical Jays game ever because this guy goes 6 innings and gives up 2 earned runs, and again gets a no decision. So like that, just nothing's changed in Blue Jays land. When this team gets wins, they barely scrape by, and then when they lose games, it seems like we lose games in the worst way possible. But again, we have a chance at a series split tomorrow. I guess, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't feel like that good about this game, honestly. Like, again, you get the win, but this offense didn't look that great. Justin Turner, legacy game, 3 for 4, and IKF, 2 for 4. But you look at the big dogs, not really much there today. The bullpen looked great as well. But, yeah, I can't say that I'm overly confident going into this last game here. And then Kyle Bradish going. Yusei Kikuchi's been struggling a little bit. The Baltimore Orioles are notorious for hitting left-handed pitching. So we'll see what happens. And you got to be optimistic about it. But I'm not going to get my hopes too high for this last game here.
Yeah. Just before we go any further, I did want to mention All-Star Game voting is out. You can vote 5 times per day up until a certain point, I believe. So go vote the Blue Jays in. I know the Schneider sisters, I want to call them, on Twitter have been pumping out tweets trying to get the votes going. So we're going to do our part too, try to get the boys in there. Make sure you guys do the same. I think it's just all you got to put in is like an email address. I think it's really easy. Carter, speaking of Davis Schneider, he had one of the worst strikeouts I've seen a player have in a long time. It was horrible. It was a curveball. It was hanging too. And he just got beat. He got absolutely fooled. And I'm a big Davis Schneider guy. I don't say too much wrong about the guy, but that he got beat aggressively.
Yeah, I mean, it's happened sometimes. The guy was obviously waiting on a fastball, definitely not expecting the curveball. Look, terrible swing. I mean, it is what it is. Davis Schneider can't be the hero every single game. We got a different hero today, IKF. Something we saw in the 9th inning where we don't normally see is manufacturing runs. But yeah, Davis Schneider, again, definitely not moving him from the leadoff spot. It is what it is. These games happen. I'm just glad that Toronto, we just actually got a win without Davis Schneider having to be the hero for once.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's why, I always am so high on this guy that, when there is something that I see, I'm going to say it as well. Because I think we take pride in this podcast of being very, I don't want to say unbiased, but if somebody does something bad, we're not going to sugarcoat it, right? If it's a bad play, it's a bad play. We're going to tell you how it is. Yeah, let's go back to Jose Berrios. I mean, just another unbelievable start. This guy has been the rock of this team all season long. It was really nice to see again. He's one of those guys that when he goes out on the mound, you know exactly what you're going to get. And I think that is so huge. Right now with Kevin Gausman sort of being a little bit up and down, he's sort of a question mark some nights. Yusei Kikuchi's been pretty much good all year except the last 2 games. And then Chris Bassett, another guy that I sort of think what you're going to get. It's not going to be exceptional, but it's not going to be terrible. So he's sort of in that middle ground. And then the 5th starter It's a huge question right now. We saw a great day in AAA from Yariel Rodriguez. I don't know if you have the exact stats. I think it was 3 innings, 4 strikeouts, and 1 walk, I believe. No runs given up.
I can get the stats here. I had them here. I'll get it quick. Yeah, 3 innings pitched, 0 hits, 0 earned runs, 4 Ks, and 1 walk. 43 pitches, 29 strikes. Again, it's a nice one rehab start. But you look at Bowden Francis, he had a great rehab start as well. And then you saw what happened in yesterday's game. Again, this was against the Baltimore Orioles, and they have an unbelievable lineup. But you definitely want him to be more effective. But with Ariel Rodriguez, we saw a little bit of him so far in spring training, and then a little bit, obviously, at the start of the season. I'm just excited to get this guy back, get a guy that can actually slot into this fifth starting rotation spot, a guy that we actually know who's going to start on any given day, not just this random. Is it going to be Trevor Richards? It's going to be Bowden Francis. It's going to be Henny Cabrera. A little bit of concreteness from the fifth rotation spot, which is huge. But with Jose Berrios, I mean, this guy is just absolutely ridiculous. This guy is now 11 for 13 in quality starts, and the other 2 starts was one of them was against San Diego Padres. He went 5 innings, 2 earned runs, just barely missed on the quality start there. And then the Phillies are a good baseball team. He kind of got hit around there, but that's going to happen once in a while. This guy just continues to give the team a chance to win every single time he goes out there, and just never seems to get rewarded for it. I already said before, he got the no decision again today. He's had 11 quality starts, and he's 5-4. So that's why win-loss is just not a stat that should actually be taken seriously. It's absolutely ridiculous. The Jays are 9-4 when Jose Berrios starts. That just shows that this guy's putting them in good spots to win the game. And as I said, yesterday's podcast, this team has scored 3 or less runs now in 33 games out of, I think it would be 62 at this point. Not a math guy, could be wrong. Can't really remember the Jays record right now. So we'll see what happens with that. This offense just has to score more runs. We say that all the time. It's just, I think at this point, it's just not going to happen. You just got to realize that this offense is below mediocre. It's below average. You need pitching to be unbelievable, and it can't be unbelievable every single time. But with Jose Berrios, you get as close as you can get for him being consistent and giving you a quality start every single time he goes out.
Yeah, and just going back to the point you made about the wins and losses, we actually had a sort of funny conversation with Sully of Locked On MLB and Locked On Athletics, I believe he does as well. And this was like post-recording that we did with him. We talked about this and just, what pitching stats matter, which don't. And there's a lot of statistics in the MLB that really don't matter whatsoever. If you use the eye test, you can sort of tell. Which I believe, Carter, we're going to post on the weekend. Just as a sort of a little bonus episode for you guys. It's already out on Locked On MLB, but we'll post it here for some of you guys who don't follow that channel. It's just a cool little insight as more of an overview on the Toronto Blue Jays. Going back to today's game, Carter. Yeah, you know what? IKF, great day. Justin Turner, great day. IKF, 2 for 4 today, 2 RBI. I mean, just, again, at the beginning of the year, we sort of dogged this guy, thinking it wasn't the best pickup, and he's been one of our best players this season, which is horrific to say. I hate to do him like that, but that's terrible. If IKF's one of your best players on your team and one of your best hitters, something's wrong. And don't get me wrong, his at bat in the 9th inning, if Kevin Biggio doesn't get to second on that wild pickoff attempt, obviously they're not going to be playing them in on IKF's at bat, and that ball is probably a deep fly ball. But he comes up and does exactly what he's needed to do in that situation. He hits that deeper ball, gives Kevin Biggio the room to score, and of course it gets over their head because they're playing the outfielders in. Yeah, I don't know. I'm very conflicted with today's game, I think, as an overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Just looking at that Kevin Biggio play, I get you want him to get in scoring position. You have Alejandro Kirk at the plate. Obviously, if this guy hits a ground ball, no matter where it is, it's going to be a double play. That's just how Alejandro Kirk is, unfortunately. So they're trying to get a hit and run on for Alejandro Kirk. They did it once. He fouled off a pitch. And then the next pitch, I think they try to pick off Kevin Biggio, and then they throw another pitch, and they go back over again. Kevin Biggio is caught dead in the water. He got back. I think he read it well, but it looks like he tripped or something. Thank God Craig Kimbrell can't throw a ball to first base. That was just a terrible throw. And then obviously it gets behind him. A good job by Budzinski to get Biggio up. He didn't know where the ball was. He must have been yelling to get him up. He quickly scampers over to 2. And then Alejandro Kirk has a good at-bat. IKF, you can't, that's all hypothetical. If IKF has a different at-bat, if there's 2 outs, there's nobody on base, he's probably approaching that at bat differently. This guy just wanted to get a ball in the air, and that's exactly what he did. So I definitely can't fault IKF for that. But yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like you look at this game from just a broad view. You look at the first inning again. I mean, this team is just becoming historic in the first inning. I think that's 27 innings now in a row that this team has not scored in the first inning. You have Dalton Varsho hits a double in that inning. Vladdy strikes out, and then Bo Bichette actually has a great swing, but hits it right at Ryan Mountcastle. Probably would have scored Dalton Varsho and broke the streak, but now, 27 in a row. The MLB record is 31 from the Boston Bees.
Yikes.
So that's how long ago that record stands for. So it's getting close. It's getting a little crazy. Again, you get one more game against the Baltimore Orioles, and then you get 2 games against the Athletics to hopefully score a run in the first inning, or the Toronto Blue Jays are going to be on the wrong side of history. And here, I think I don't know if we're being too negative. I don't like, we got to win here. It doesn't really seem like we got to win the way we're talking on this podcast. But again, like, you look at this offense, there's not really a lot to be happy about other than IKF and Justin Turner. Like, a lot of these at-bats were not good again. You have, what is his name, Albert Suarez, I think it is, a guy that is not in the Orioles rotation if they don't have injuries, and you don't score many runs off him. You get 2 runs off of him. I mean, it's not great when you're looking at this from a broad perspective. And you got Kyle Bradish tomorrow. Kyle Bradish is a great pitcher. So again, this team isn't even hitting. Albert Suarez isn't a bad pitcher. Don't want to say that, but he's definitely not up to par with Corbin Burns, Grayson Rodriguez, and Kyle Bradish. And you saw what happened in the first 2 games of the series. So I think that's why we're not really giving this Blue Jays team maybe props they don't necessarily deserve. Maybe they do deserve it. Again, I'm kind of on the fence with that. You can't be that mad about a win, but you look at this offense, it's hard to get excited about an offense that just doesn't score runs.
Yeah. And you know what, Carter? We got lots more to talk about. I think a lot more to talk about on this game. But then we got some Orioles comments on our last video, and it sort of sparked a little bit of a conversation between me and yourself. So I think let's get into that, but let's finish off with this game first. We're just going to take a quick break and get right back to it.
Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They are the easiest and most exciting way to play fantasy sports because it's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharps, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 stat player projections and watch the winnings roll in. Prize Picks is very simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entries in as little as 60 seconds. So I said I'm an NFL fantasy guy. I'm an NHL fantasy guy. MLB fantasy guy. I really use it all other than NBA, to be honest. But again, I got a ride with David Schneider. He's on my fantasy team. I got him over 6.5 fantasy points. Other than that, I'm not going to put too many other bets on this game. I'm just going to try to let the Blue Jays ride it out. I'm going to try to just refrain from getting too crazy. But I had to ride with my boy, David Schneider, or maybe I should say your boy, David Schneider, with how much you love him. If you know which players are going to perform on specific nights, this is a no-brainer. Download Prize Picks and start making your picks today. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit matchup to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit matchup to $100.
So, Carter, I know I was scouring the comments today and trying to reply to some people, but the Orioles fans, I guess, were watching the last podcast or listening, or I guess they were watching. It was on YouTube. And there were some bold ones. Just before we get into those, because they are very interesting, and I think the debate that it sort of started, not maybe between me and you, I think we were sort of on the same page, but the thought process it got us into was very interesting. But first of all, going back to this game, Carter, I just want to sort of sum it up as what it was. Nothing from this game to the games prior changed for me. This team can still not score many runs. They need our pitching to be unbelievable. And we just look worse than the Orioles. I mean, if you take the 3 games as a whole, this just doesn't look good. It looks like they just maybe had an off game, or a pitcher that hasn't had too many starts this season. I don't put this as a great Blue Jays win. I put this as a sort of just a slip in the Orioles more so, because I don't think we compete. And I know that's pretty negative to come off a win, but it's tough to watch. It's the exact same baseball we saw the last 2 days. It's just it worked out in our favor today.
Yeah, I'll give the Blue Jays a little bit of credit here. One thing I did like is that you get 2 runs from the Baltimore Orioles in the second inning. Santander hits a ball that's not even in the zone out of the ballpark. This guy's just another Blue Jays killer. It seems like everyone on the Orioles is a Blue Jays killer at this point. But you get an answer right away, which is a huge thing this team doesn't really do. And it kind of keeps you in the game. So a lot of the time, the Blue Jays get down early. And I don't know if you probably feel the same way, but I'm like, we're down 2-0. I don't know if we're coming back. I don't know if we're going to score any runs. So the fact that we scored 2 right away is awesome to see. Justin Turner, a huge double. And then I think you had an Alejandro Kirk sacrifice fly in that inning as well, which is huge. Or maybe it was the IKF single. I can't remember exactly. Probably the IKF single. One of his good at-bats. And then the 9th inning, I'll give them this as well. This team is not good at manufacturing runs whatsoever. Justin Turner gets that leadoff single. Kevin Biggio, again, hypothetical, probably could have been picked off. Didn't get picked off, so I don't care. Gets to second base. Then you get an Alejandro Kirk deep fly ball to right, moves him to third. And then you get IKF doing the job again. Another fly ball to right, drives in the run. Blue Jays win the game. This is something they just don't do. You got to play small ball in the big situations. If this game goes to extra innings, I'm definitely not as confident in this Blue Jays team. They had to win the game there. They got it done. And one thing we haven't talked about yet is how good the bullpen looked today. Tim Mays does a job, looks pretty good, has a walk. I mean, it is what it is. Chad Green, I love this guy, man. He's so good. Goes in, 4 straight outs, exactly what you need from him. Yimi Garcia gets it done in the 9th as well. 10 pitches, probably could have went out for the 10th if you needed them. Should be available for tomorrow's game now, which is huge for this bullpen. Just something exactly what you said before. This team needs perfect pitching, though, to seem like they have to win games. The pitching was pretty much as good as you can ask for. 2 earned runs over 9 innings. Not a lot of base runners. Kind of just stifling this Baltimore Orioles offense that is one of the best in baseball. So you got to give the bullpen credit here. Again, you're kind of throwing your best guys, I would say, in this situation, which obviously you have to. It's high leverage in a very close game. So John Schneider, thank God he actually found a way to get his best available guys out, which is something that he's kind of struggled with this entire year. So you got to give them a little bit of credit here. It's just from offensively, it's other than Justin Turner, though, and IKF. Yeah, it's hard to get excited about an offense that just is so mediocre so often. One thing I do want to give a shout out to, one guy, again, Justin Turner. I know we've been talking a lot about him today. 1,500 career hits. This guy, what a career for Justin Turner. You take a step back. Obviously, you've only had a third of the season with the Toronto Blue Jays, played with the Boston Red Sox, played with the Dodgers for a long time. Just you look at this guy and what he's done in his career. Unbelievable career from Justin Turner. Hopefully he can kind of continue this momentum and be an effective hitter for the Toronto Blue Jays. But even if he doesn't, and from a career perspective, this guy's been unbelievable.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I remember playing like the old MLB games on I think it was on the Wii, to be honest with you. And he was there. Like I've always had a love for Justin Turner. So when the Blue Jays did sign him, it was sort of like I don't know, just a nice feeling in my heart, honestly, of him being a Toronto Blue Jay and me forever being able to say that Justin Turner was a Toronto Blue Jay. Yeah, really, really great for him. When players hit these milestones, especially at, later in their career, I mean, Justin Turner's getting up there in age. So it's really good to see for him. Just going back on what you were saying about the bullpen, Carter, they were excellent today. And that's exactly the problem, to be honest with you, is that this team does need to have perfect pitching to win ball games. I know we're going to keep saying that, but we look at the past games of this series, and to be honest with you, Carter, you hit the nail on the head when you said coming up with answering the bell, right? As soon as the Orioles score, the Blue Jays answer back. And that's exactly what this team needs to do more often. It's just, I don't know if they have that in them all the time. And I don't know what changed from today, from yesterday, or yesterday from the day before. I don't know. And probably nothing. Honestly, it probably just worked out in our favor. But looking back at the IKF play in the 9th inning, I know you want to give them props on that, and great. My only problem is that you said manufacturing runs. I don't necessarily know if that was manufactured, because again, yes, it is all hypothetical, but without the error, that doesn't happen. And I know that's part of baseball, and I understand that completely. But I can't necessarily give this team props for that just yet. Because again, this is the first time we're seeing this. And I would love to say that they're going to come out and probably maybe do the same thing tomorrow or the next day. But it's just not what I'm seeing. It's not consistency. And if this would have went the other way, where Kevin Biggio maybe doesn't get picked off, but maybe gets back to the bag and he's held at one, I don't believe that they manufacture that base runner or that run. I don't know. And maybe, it's going to be one of those things I think that me and you are just going to think differently on. And there's been maybe we've been getting more like that a little bit in the past couple of days. We've had little things. But yeah, I think it's more so because me and you both know how this Blue Jays team plays. And there's maybe you're the glass half full and I'm a little bit the glass half empty. But I do want to get into the Orioles comments. But before that, do you have anything else you want to touch on from this game?
Yeah, I got just a few more things for just a response to that. I mean, like I said, hypothetical, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Yeah, again, you get from first to second. I don't know if that does happen either. Like Alejandro Kirk, again, these guys probably approach their plate appearances differently based on the situation. But one thing I do want to come back at you with is they had no outs, runner on second. How often does this team even drive in that run? Seems like they never do it.
Yeah.
So again, you got to give them a little bit of credit there with those two at bats. One thing I want to get into is just kind of why I think we got a win today, but overarchingly, we are not very excited about it necessarily. And I'm just going to go over some stats from the Baltimore Orioles playing the Toronto Blue Jays this season. So the Baltimore Orioles have scored 24 runs against the Toronto Blue Jays. We've scored 11. The Baltimore Orioles have 12 home runs in these games. We have 3. Before this game, the Baltimore Orioles OPS against the Toronto Blue Jays was 825. The Toronto Blue Jays was 566. So clearly these teams are just on different levels. And that's why we kind of feel like we just squeaked out a win against the Baltimore Orioles, because that's kind of what happened. You look at this team offensively, you look at this team pitching wise, they're just superior to the Toronto Blue Jays statistically. And you can say whatever you want, the eye test again, analytics, this and that. We kind of go on both sides of it. But at some point, you got to value both of them. The eye test is saying the Baltimore Orioles are better than the Toronto Blue Jays. The stats are saying that as well. One more thing I do want to go over is just how bad this team has been in the first inning. So obviously over the last 26 games, they have 0 runs. They have a batting average of 135 and an OPS of 363. That's just not good. I'm like, obviously it's just not good. I'm going to leave it at that. This offense just has to be better. We say it every single podcast. And I don't think it's magically going to get better, obviously. We're not going to be able to pull a rabbit out of a hat here and then just all of a sudden start hitting home runs. The only way this is shaken up is if you maybe pull somebody up from AAA, maybe you make a big trade. But I think this team has came out. I don't know if this could have been just a random account. I might have maybe got baited on this one. But I thought somebody said that, I wish I had the tweet here. Somebody said that this team is not going to be firm on whether they're buyers or sellers until the All-Star break, which would make sense in my head. That's why I brought it up on this podcast. Because this Toronto Blue Jays team just does not like to do anything, it seems like. It seems like they just like to ride it out, be mediocre at best, and not make the big move that this team desperately needs. You look back in 2015, they made a big trade for David Price. Obviously, that team looked a lot different than this team does right now. But maybe they do make that at the All-Star break. Maybe they're in a different situation. But it's just kind of tough to believe that with this offense. But saying that, I'll let you respond here.
Yeah, no, sorry. I'm thinking we maybe push the Oriole stuff to segment 3 here.
Sure.
Just because what you just said is very. I don't know. I know. You know what? We always say we're going to try to keep these podcasts short, and then we're 25 minutes in by segment 2. It's very interesting to hear that. And you know what? I did see something as well. I don't know if it was on Twitter. I can't remember exactly where it was either. I was just sort of scrolling through a bunch of stuff today. But the fact is that that's good in sentiment and in thought to wait till the All-Star break and then make a decision. But by that point, it might be too late. If you want to get a guy, maybe the move either has already been made or it's too late for that person who comes in to make any significant difference if it's to push this team into a playoff spot, or if you're selling, maybe you don't get as good of a return because they know you want to sell by the deadline. Either way, is it too late for that move? I think if you want to put a spark plug in these guys, you make either that move early. And I think everybody is well aware that this is if the Blue Jays don't succeed in some fashion, this is Ross Atkins' most likely last season with this team. So I don't necessarily know why he wouldn't go for something now to try to spark this team. And maybe this is a debate for another day that we can have because maybe it is a longer conversation. But that's just sort of where I'm sitting with this. The All-Star break thing just doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, like you said, you're kind of showing your hand at that point. You might be completely out of it. Maybe you're even in the run. But you look at the San Diego Padres. They make a trade for Luis Urias. it works out pretty well. He gets a walk-off in like the first 3 games he's playing on that team. So again, there's a bunch of other things we could go into this team about Ross Atkins, how bad this front office is, blah, blah, blah. We've gone over this a million times. So let's get into something we haven't really talked about is Orioles fans commenting on our comment section. So we're going to get into that in segment 3. But before we do head there, I want to throw it over to the Locked On 24/7 streaming channel, Locked On Sports Today, or the Amazon Fire TV's channel app, whether it's the MLB, NBA, NHL, or the NFL, college sports, you name it. Expert analysis over there. Perfect opportunity to check that out. We're going to get into some Orioles comments coming up.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. As you guys all know, I'm a huge Game Time guy. This is like one of my favorite apps on my phone. This is the only app I'll use for buying tickets because everything that you would want purchasing tickets is in this app. First of all, the biggest component for us when we were in Toronto was that we could see the prices before we went to the checkout. There was no additional fees. There's nothing like that. Whatever was shown is the price. And that is huge for me. And I know it's huge for us trying to a little bit save some money, but still get good seats. And that what also helped out with that was their zone deals, their flash deals, and so on. There's so many little deals in certain sections and certain seats. It was fantastic. And one of the other great parts, I could say so many great things about this app, but another great part is that you could see the view from your seat, which was huge. So we knew exactly what our view was going to be. So because we were trying to sit all over the ballpark, and it turned out that we were able to do that because of Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. So, Carter, like I said, the comments, the video did well, the podcast did well yesterday. I think it drew in some Orioles fans, shockingly. Why? I don't know. Awesome. It's cool to have other fans, and it starts debates in our comment section. It's a lot of fun. But the comments also sort of made me and you do a little bit of thinking. So I think you said you did have the screenshots of them, eh?
Yeah, I got a few of them, but I know exactly why the Baltimore Orioles fans were in our comment section. It was a gloat. It was just to make us feel even worse about ourselves. And I mean, I guess that's fair. Like, we used to think that we went into the Baltimore Orioles, we would go to Camden Yards, and then we would just like, oh, perfect. We get pretty much a free series win, if not a series sweep. There's a bunch of games that like you think of the Baltimore Orioles as like kind of a relaxed schedule. It's almost like the Chicago White Sox this year. Maybe that's a little bit too crazy, but yeah, this team was never that bad. But again, it was never that good, especially from the years like 2017 up until 2022. But yeah, I do have some comments here. And again, it's not necessarily exactly about what the comments are. It's kind of just like what we ended up talking about after. So one comment I have here is from Dash Frame is, as an O's fan who had to endure the 2016 wild card as well as multiple 100 loss seasons, this feels so earned. Just have to throw that in there because, yeah, I mean, this sucks. This sucks. I'll be the first one to say it. Obviously, all the Blue Jays fans probably feel very similar to this. One comment I had here is O's fan here as well. This Jays team gives me the vibes of the 2015 O's that finished 81 and 81. Most of the same cast of characters that had success in prior seasons, but a combination of regression and just plain dud years had them in the cellar. Look, I had to look up this this Baltimore Orioles team because this was like 2015 was almost 10 years ago, which is absolutely insane at this point. But they had Matt Waiters, they had Chris Davis, who I used to love, J.J. Hardy, Manny Machado was on this team, Jonathan Scope was on this team, Adam Jones, obviously Steven Pierce, Travis Schneider, I thought that one was funny, Dalman Young. There was a lot of guys on this team. They did look like, on paper, I wouldn't say they were like favorites to win the World Series. And I think that's where this is a little bit different. I think the Toronto Blue Jays had World Series aspirations. Maybe that's just us being delusional. Maybe that's reporters being delusional because after what you saw last year, I don't know how you could have said that about this team. But yeah, a lot of these guys did have down years. And again, there is some similarities here, but I wouldn't say the overarching thing is that they were underperforming. I'll get into a couple more comments here. This one I thought was funny, so I just want to throw it in. What is crazy that I'm an Orioles fan and I hate every team in the American League except the Toronto Blue Jays. Is that weird? And that is from Horace Comingan. I don't even know how to pronounce that.
That's a terrible try, but it's a try.
Well, it's crazy, man. If you try to pronounce this, you try to pronounce pitchers' names, you don't even know how to do that. You wouldn't be able to pronounce this name. You said, is that weird? No, I wouldn't say so. I feel like for me, I hate the Yankees, obviously.
Yeah.
Not a big Red Sox guy. The Rays just kind of annoy me. And the Orioles, like, as much as I hate playing them right now, like it's such a fun baseball team to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I hate the Yankees and I hate the Red Sox. Have a lot of respect for David Ortiz, and watching him all my life, but I hate the Red Sox. Rays are sort of whatever for me, and the Orioles are a fun team to watch. I don't have the hatred like I do for most of the other AL East teams. Carter, just before you get into, I don't know if you have more yet or not,
I
but
got one more, which is kind of
okay,
gonna continue us into what we were
okay,
going to talk
okay,
about.
yeah, I'll let you go then.
Okay, so this is a one more comment here from the greatest sports show. We have been where you are. It sucks for sure. The issue is for you guys is that your club is trying to win these games and still have these results. When the Orioles were bad, we almost had no big league players, and your payroll is concerning. And I think that is the biggest difference between the Baltimore Orioles from the years 2017 to 2022 to the Toronto Blue Jays right now, is that the Baltimore Orioles were rebuilding. They knew they were going to be bad. They let the young players play. There wasn't a lot of expectations. You were trying to find the fun things in these younger players, trying to watch them kind of develop here. You were waiting on, again, a little bit later on, Adley Rutschman, these kind of guys coming up throughout the system, the guys that you got excited about, Grayson Rodriguez, another guy there. This Toronto Blue Jays team, they like the prospect rankings. Our prospect rankings are 24th in all of baseball. Like, we don't have a good farm system. This was supposed to be the Toronto Blue Jays window. They have the 8th highest payroll in baseball. And now we're talking about selling at the deadline. There hasn't really been, well, there was a rebuild. It was just a completely failed rebuild. We don't have a playoff win from this rebuild whatsoever. The Baltimore Orioles didn't win a playoff game last season, but they're in a really good spot right now to make the playoffs for probably the next 7 years. So again, there's a lot to be excited about for Baltimore Orioles fans. It's just, you're comparing their rebuild to ours. It's night and day. It's completely failed rebuild of the Toronto Blue Jays, and what a rebuild from the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, and I mean the comments. I mean, it was sort of funny. I read it and I laughed because that's exactly the point, right? The Orioles were almost being like, whatever, who cares? We're going to wait a few years and be one of the best teams in the AL East, and the path was there. They knew what the plan was. With this Toronto Blue Jays team, it feels like we should be fighting the Dodgers to see who wins the World Series. But instead, we're talking about blowing the team up and not making the playoffs. It's a very different feeling. I think the expectations that Blue Jays have with the eighth highest payroll in the league, the expectation we would be there. We would be fighting for a chance to play in the World Series. And we're not even close. And that's why it's way more frustrating. And as an Orioles fan, maybe that's the sort of the feeling you had was, oh, it can't come quick enough. When is this going to happen? But now you're seeing the payoff. Right now, if we look as Blue Jays fans, we look at our farm system, we don't even see a projection of where we want to be eventually. We don't see nobody's got a hologram 10 years in the future showing us this team in the race for a World Series. We see nothing right now. Like, we see a dark hole. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. It's just darkness and then more darkness and then even more darkness. So that's the difference. And that's why, I mean, we're frustrated. That's why watching this game today, it's a win, but it's somebody lighting a match quickly in the tunnel of darkness. It's definitely not the light at the end of the tunnel. Nobody's giving us a flashlight.
Well, and there's one thing that, again, it's a whole other can of worms. I'm not really going to get into it too much here, but we're always talking about re-signing Vladdy and Bo. Are they going to want to stay around for a rebuild? I don't think so. Why would they? They haven't won here, partially due to them. I'll give them that. But why would you want to commit to a team for 7-8 years, whatever it ends up being, for a team that probably won't even make the playoffs after the year of 2025? Even if they make it this year, next year, this team's window is closing rapidly. Are they going to want to just be mediocre for their entire careers? I don't necessarily think so. Vladdy has expressed interest again with signing with the Toronto Blue Jays. Bo Bichette hasn't really expressed any interest whatsoever. So that, again, completely different can of worms. I think we'll save that probably for next week. But there is 2 more things I want to go over here. So I'm just going to go over the full AL East farm system rankings.
Sorry, Carter, just before you get into that, you said something there that reminded me of another comment I saw, was that Vladdy and this will just be quick, Vladdy wants to resign because he likes to be the face of the franchise. He wants to be that guy. and I can't remember who commented this, and I should have looked back, but you just sparked it sort of, so I thought of it. And Bo Bichette doesn't necessarily care about being that, and that's maybe why he doesn't resign. But Vladdy might, because I think I 100% agreed with this comment saying that Vladdy likes to be the guy. He likes to be the face of MLB The Show 24, the face of the Toronto Blue Jays. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, and this will lead us into a bigger conversation eventually. But it's sort of just a cool throwback there to the comments.
Yeah, 100% fair. I mean, Vlad, you can just kind of tell by their play styles. You can tell by how they act on the field. Bo Bichette's not really a guy that's going to do anything crazy, kind of like more serious baseball player than Vladdy. Vladdy does like to have fun. I'm not saying you shouldn't have fun on the baseball field, but you can tell Vladdy kind of knows where the cameras are at all times. So I'm going to quickly go over the AL East farm systems here. So you look at the Baltimore Orioles, obviously a very good baseball team. They're number one, which is just, again, so scary for AL East teams in this division here. Tampa Bay Rays aren't having a great season, but they're 6. The New York Yankees can buy whoever they want as well, and they're at 11. The Red Sox are at 14. Yeah, the Jays are at 24. So it's like just looking at our window, looking at how this window has gone with the Ross Atkins era, and just the results that come from it, it's tough to say anything positive about it. And this is just completely random as well, but I got a tweet from Shai Davidi here. I thought this was funny. So the Toronto Blue Jays fans had the second highest DPF of the season last night. You guess what DPF stands for?
Is it something to do with hot dogs?
Yeah, it's something to do with hot dogs, yes.
Let's go. Let's go, Shai. Answer the questions that people want to hear.
It is dogs per fan.
Great. Thanks, Shai. You really have to put that tweet out. Love it.
And in yesterday's game, the Toronto Blue Jays had their second highest dogs per fan. I don't know if it's from this season or if it's in history of the Looney Dog Night, but I thought that was funny just to kind of lighten the mood at the end of this podcast. But yeah, saying that, we got Kyle Bradish, most likely. I think that's pretty much confirmed now. I looked on MLB.com. For some reason it wasn't, but it should be Kyle Bradish and then Yusei Kikuchi. Again, we were hoping for a series sweep. We're in a position to get there. Am I confident in it? I can't necessarily say that. I'd probably put it at like 65-35, and I think that might be a little bit bold. Obviously, the Baltimore Orioles being the 65. I'm not going to say must win. I said today's game was a must win, or yesterday's game technically, but a series split isn't the worst thing. I'd be happy with it. Again, I shouldn't say happy. I'll be like okay with it. A series loss is just very defeating at this point.
Oh, to be honest with you, I'm thrilled for a series split. I'm over the moon for a series split. I am, and I would have been devastated if it was a series sweep. I would have been absolutely devastated. Series loss, not good, but I'm okay. I'm feeling okay. But a series split, I'm over the moon. Send me to Bradley Zimmer. I'll meet him on the moon.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, but as well, like this team if you want this team to make the playoffs, you want them to have a chance. Again, we might be delusional here, but I don't care. I'm going to be delusional. I'm going to hope for the Toronto Blue Jays to make the playoffs at any single time throughout the year. I don't care if they're 20 games below 500. I'm still going to hope they're making the playoffs. But yeah, series loss just doesn't do anything, obviously, for this team. A series split, again, it kind of keeps you in the middle ground. That you can take good things away from a series split. I don't think you can do that with a series loss. But I think we're going to end it there. Thank you guys for watching. Next week, you get 3 episodes without Braden. So I think it's going to be probably the best 3 episodes in the history of this podcast. I'm definitely excited. You guys might be as well. Before we do head out, I want to throw over to Locked On 24/7 streaming channel one more time. Locked On Sports Today, Amazon Fire TV's channel app, whatever sports you're into. I'm in an NFL fantasy draft right now. You guys probably aren't, but if you are, there's fantasy analysis there. A lot of different things you can go over there and check out. I think it's a great opportunity. Again, yesterday's video, maybe it was mostly Baltimore Orioles fans subscribing. I don't know what it was, but a huge day for the podcast. It was definitely awesome to see all the interaction, lots of comments, lots of debates in that section. I always say this. It's my favorite thing is to talk to the fans, talk to what other fans' perspectives are. Maybe, again, if they're diehard fans, the casual fans, definitely nice to take a step back and see what people that aren't watching this team every single day think about the Toronto Blue Jays. We have noticed that I think it's 68% now, so it's a little bit better. Of you guys are not subscribed that are watching these videos. So if you're coming back every single day to follow the Toronto Blue Jays, subscribe. Helps us out a ton. We appreciate it a lot. Braden, you got anything else to add before we head out? I guess technically for the weekend, because we have our 100th episode tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. 100th episode. It was a blast to record. We sort of did it in pieces a little bit. So you guys will see we're wearing different clothes. I think I still have the beard at one point in it.
I think for
And
the one Skylar segment you do.
yes, yeah. It was a lot of fun though. We talked about a bunch of stuff, and just got different opinions. And your guys are going to probably see either Dal or Skylar or both at some point early next week. I'm gone Monday, Tuesday, and I think Wednesday. I might be back Wednesday. I'm not. No, I think I'm gone Wednesday
You're
as
gone
well.
Wednesday, yeah. You don't even know your
Um,
own trip apparently. It's crazy.
no, I didn't book it. I'm in New York, so I'll be having some fun down there. I'm going to catch some baseball games, and sadly, not Blue Jays games. I'm going to go to a Yankees game and a Mets game. So or one team I hate and one team that's just
Yeah,
horrible
but
to
Yankees
watch.
Dodgers though, that's going to be pretty electric, let's be honest.
It's going to be unreal. You know what? I have a Freddie Freeman jersey, and I'm really not sure if I'm going to wear the Freddie Freeman jersey or I'm going to show up in my Davis Schneider powder blue jersey and stand out like a sore thumb.
I think that's what you should do, honestly. If you had like the City Connect would have been kind of elite for that situation, or maybe like the Canada Red, just completely stand out
Yeah.
like a sore thumb, like you said, just kind of be like a neon highlighter in that fan section there. But yeah, it should be a fun trip for you. I'm gonna kind of take the reins over here. I'll probably have guests pretty much every episode. Maybe there will be one that I do by myself, but probably not. So it'll be a little bit of change of pace. It will be an interesting weekend. We'll have the Oakland Athletics. And as for this last game of the series, I'll be posting out a short, reel, TikTok, you name it. I'll definitely have some comments about the series wrap up here. But yeah, I'm pretty much, I guess, ready to head into the weekend.
Yeah,
Um,
me too. I'm ready. You know, I got a Bomber game tomorrow, and then I'm off to New York. So I might join you still for one episode. We'll sort of see how the trip goes, how the timing goes. I don't want to come on the podcast if I can't watch necessarily the game because I think that's just a bad look. I don't want to talk out of my ass. But whatever, we'll see what happens. Anyway, guys, as always, appreciate all of you watching or listening. Either way, wherever you are, tune into all the shorts, TikToks, whatever reels that you can. Carter posts a bunch of cool stuff. I hop on there once in a blue moon. That's what I'll say. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys, I guess, next week at some point.